Discovering Our Oceans and Its Zones by Sydney and Ellie.
The ocean is a large body of salt water composed of most of the Earth's hydrosphere.
The ocean has 4 main layers, or zones, with many different species, plants, and life in each. We will be teaching you about the different layers and the great biodiversity that the ocean has.
We incorporated varying unique animals and plants that inhabit each zone of the ocean. So, let's get started.
First is the sunlight zone at the top of the ocean. It receives more light than any other zone and starts off the food chain. This zone extends 300 feet deep depending on the murkiness of the water. Because light is so important, this zone holds more ocean creatures than any other. Another reason why light is so important on this layer is because light photosynthesis can occur, which provides plenty of food and oxygen for all the species. This zone attracts many snorkelers because people are able to see so many plants and animals. The plants in this zone are called phytoplankton. They are very unique because half the air that we breathe comes from these phytoplanktons. The Portuguese man-of-war lives in the sunlight zone and is made up of 4 different polyps and is very similar to a jellyfish. On average, they are around 12 inches long and feed off of other fish. Even dead or washed up on shore, they can still sting humans. Next zone is the twilight zone, which only receives a little sunlight compared to the sunlight zone. On average, this zone can extend from 660 to 3,330 feet, and the water starts to become very cold. The pressure is high in the zone and increases with depth, so there is less dissolved oxygen. There are no plants in the zone because photosynthesis cannot occur. Animals that live in this zone adapt to a life in almost complete darkness. Because this zone is so dark, many animals are bioluminescent, which means they can make their own light. Animals in these zones have a special organ that produces light by a chemical reaction, or they have growing bacteria that live on their bodies that give them light. Animals use this light to help find food, mates, confuse predators, and even camouflage themselves. Counterillumination is the method of camouflage used in this zone to help an animal disappear from predators below them. For animals, their top part is not lit, so animals looking down on their prey is essentially invisible because the animals blend in with the water. The third zone is the midnight zone, which receives no sunlight at all. On average, the depth of this zone is 3,300 feet to 13,000 feet. The temperatures are nearly freezing and decrease with depth. The pressure is extremely high in this zone. Bioluminescence is the only light seen in this zone, which comes from animals living there. The giant squid lives in the midnight zone, is one of the largest animals without a backbone. This squid has only been seen alive once off the coast of Japan in 2012, while others have been found dead and bodies examined. The giant squid is around 57 feet long with 8 arms, 2 feeding tentacles, eyes the size of basketballs, and a large head and a beak. They are carnivores and feed off of other large marine creatures with their beaks and feeding tentacles. The midnight zone is divided into 2 parts, the bathyal zone and the abyssal zone.
The abyss is the next zone of the ocean. The abyssal realm is the largest environment for Earth life, covering 300 million square kilometers, about 60% of the global surface, and 83% of the area of the oceans and seas. The aphotic zone is divided into 2 parts, the bathyal zone and the abyssal zone. Creatures in this area must be able to live in complete darkness and in close to freezing water. In the aphotic zone, there are virtually no light from the sun, so photosynthesis cannot take place. Consequently, there are no plants or other photosynthetic organisms in this zone. The only food and energy sources in this zone is from organic matter in the water column. The frill shark is one of the animals that occupies this zone. Named for its 6 pairs of collar-like gills with frilly edges, the frilled shark has many unusual features, including a strange lizard-like head, ruffled throat, long serpentine body, and tiny fins. The shark rarely ever comes to the surface. The frilled shark is located in the areas colored blue on the map. Not much else is known about this animal due to its scarcity. The ocean basin lies right on the edge of the abyss. These areas hold the majority of the planet's water. Ocean basins can either be active or inactive. An active ocean basin contains numerous new structures being created and shaped. An inactive ocean basin is slow to adapt and normally just collects sediment. An example of an inactive ocean basin is the Gulf of Mexico, where the main change is the slow building up of sand and sediment. Plates can spread apart, creating gaps where hot molten rock called magma can rise up from the Earth's mantle. The magma seeps through the gaps and solidifies to become another layer of oceanic crust. This creates continuous mountain chains located under the surface of the sea called ocean ridges. The fang-toothed fish is one of the deepest living fish ever discovered. After its name, the fang-toothed fish has extremely large and sharp teeth. The fangs are so large that the fish has sockets on the roof of its mouth into the brain in order to house the teeth when the fish closes its mouth. Fangfish have been observed in water as deep as 16,000 feet. The pressure at these depths is extremely intense and the temperatures are frigid. They have been described as more robust than other deep-water animals. Researchers are able to keep them alive even in extreme temperature and pressure conditions. The final zone at the very bottom of the ocean is the trenches. Ocean trenches are the deepest parts of the ocean, formed by collision of tectonic plates. These plates cause mountains, earthquakes, and form volcanoes in depths of nearly 20,000 feet. This area makes up the Hadal Zone, which accounts for the deepest 45% of the global ocean. However, this area only represents 1% or less of the ocean's total area. There are many unique habitats across the depths of the trenches, allowing for a diverse number of animals, most of which are still undiscovered. Among this diverse community of organisms are the giant tube worms. Tube worms can grow up to 8 feet long. They possess no digestive tract or mouth. These animals survive on the symbiotic relationship between them and bacteria. These animals thrive completely on the absence of light. They live in deep-sea hydrothermal vents located in the deepest areas of the ocean.
The ocean is still very mysterious and unknown even after all these years of research, but we hope we gave you a good idea and starting point for what oceans you may visit really look like beneath the water.
The ocean takes up so much of our Earth that it is so important to learn and be familiar with it. Directed by Sydney Locke
And Ellie Hansen.
Thank you.